Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Zerg in the red, the Italian stallion. It's Reynor, facing off against the much more relatable Terran in the blue, the People's Terran from Team Liquid. We have Cure in a best of 7 Terran versus Zerg tournament showdown as part of the November Kung Fu Cup monthly finals. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,749 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the very first drones and lings as the Reaper comes in to mildly to moderately inconvenience as many as possible, keep tabs on the Zergling count, and generally create as much disarray that potentially slows down the Zerg economy. And speaking of slowing down the Zerg economy, the first SCV blocked the more standard third base. So Reynor was not forced, but he was coerced into taking the base on the outside because of the implication. Now, am I saying that he would have hurt that drone with the Reaper by the time the Zerglings could have come out? Yes, yes. Cure invested that early SCV, and it is an investment. The Terrans would probably oversell it, but that's, you know, Terran. But having that early SCV across the map to block the base, and it's not every map. Here on Winter Madness, it's a little bit more effective to deny the base. Some maps, there is only one real choice for a third base. This one, you got some alternatives. Most maps have 2 options to expand early for this exact purpose. But one of them may be a little bit less attractive. But you work with what you have. Meanwhile, 3rd Command Center's on the way. The 111, Barracks, Factory, Starport. Some sort of fever dream tells me it was called the Destiny Cloud Fist build. But this allows the trunk of Terran tech that can deal with pretty much anything in the early game. You've got the Hellions to shave down the Zerglings and keep the creep at bay. You've got the Banshees to knock out anything more sturdy and be pretty much immune to all but the most committed Queen-based attacks. And then for Zerg, you have the Queens to spread the creep and keep vision. You have the Queens to drive back the Hellions and the Reapers, as well as knock out the Banshees. You have the Queens to inject the hatcheries and keep the macro going, and you have the Queens to patch up any units that might need the HP. So Reynor also, with his diverse start, is able to put it all together and potentially drive back all of this. And especially since he got that 3rd hatchery, even though it's in a more vulnerable location, that means he gets the creep spread out earlier. And technically, if Cure is unable to do anything to slow it down, this is actually quicker to get across the map, as the Queens seem a bit surprisingly interested in attempting. There is a Roachhorn on the way to the lair behind, a few Zerglings sprinkled in for flavor. Probably pretty crunchy, but lair pretty quick in the grand scheme of things. And Cloak for the Banshees is on the way, but the creep spread very efficient so far. And Spore Crawlers. Reynor going to have them by the time Cloak completes. He's not going to have them by the time the Banshee could have been here, but it's all timed out to maximize that economy. The reason you don't see more spores is because if you build multiple spores to deal with air units, well, they've just killed your drones, but for an extra price. Each spore crawler is an extra drone, plus another 75 minerals. So, while sometimes you might be in a better spot by building them, Queens don't cost larvae, nor do they gather minerals, so usually a more reliable choice. We've got the Queen defense teams on either side. 3 is usually the favored number, as it's enough to easily take down 2 Banshees or drive back Hellions without them thinking about running by. Wow. Wow. Infestation pit. Halfway done. This may be the quickest lair rush. Maybe not ever, but it's up there. As... not lair. Hive. Well, I guess a quick lair is kind of required for a quick hive, but... the Queens politely yet firmly driving the Banshees away. And so far, back at home, Cure just building up his production. He's got the racks. It's gonna be bio, it's gonna be Marines and tanks. The People's Terran isn't flashy, not particularly creative, but very effective. That's what he's always been about, is not how many men you lose, but how many you build to replace them. Hive begins at 6.5 minutes. Right as +1 Carapace is on the first evolution chamber and adding a second on now. Reynor at 73 drones and counting. The Hellions might find an opportunity. Darting by the Queen's a little out of position. But now the sheer amount of creep tumors might be able to help delay. Kira's building up at home actually has a little bit of a supply lead, but Reynor's going to have this hive so quick. This is the idealized hive timing here. Is he going to have enough economy for Ultralisk? I think so. He's got 80 drones and 4 bases. Wouldn't be surprised to see a macro hatch or 2 momentarily. The double drop over to the right side will be the first form of most direct aggression. Right as that hatchery tries to come up. The roaches don't even have speed. They were literally just here as a larva-efficient mechanism to zone out the Hellions, I believe. And maybe get Cure to think twice about doing any sort of committed early attacks. But the hive is completed at 7.5 minutes. Let's see it, Reynor. Not the Vipers. That's not what I meant. Not the adrenal glands. Well, that's also good. No Ultra Rush. Just, you know, Ultras are not a precision tool. They're more like a bowling ball and hoping you strike the Terrans in the right spot at the right time. But the Queens, pulling it back together. Transfuses, keeping them intact. That hatchery will be denied for now. Cure hitting a strong timing with 94 army supply against Reynor, who has a lot of upgrades in the mail right now, but they haven't yet been delivered. Adrenal glands is halfway done. Carapace. +2 Carapace just started. Baneling speed isn't there yet. But Cure, ever the patient Terran, is waiting to regroup, though in a bit of an awkward position. Could absolutely get crushed here as Bane speed finishes. But the Banshee's back at home to help zone things out. 3 more racks on the way. The Octo Racks is coming online, but this isn't all in. This is full production. He's got 70 SCVs. He's got a 4th command center done. He's built the wall to keep the Zerg out, even though Reynor is sending his absolute best. Reynor hasn't really had the supply to go for a counterattack. We kick some of the observers out of the game because only the premium ones are left behind. And thank you for watching, and like and subscribe. And what a timing for that to happen, though. The Banshee's out front. Another secondary attack over to the left side. The Queens helping to thin out the Marines. Banshee's helping to work on the creep as well, but here comes Reynor from all sides. Zerglings and Banelings and Vipers, oh my. And even a few Ravagers mixed in from those roaches earlier. Blinding Cloud hits both siege tanks. Banelings roll by. Cure splits, but not good enough. Every single Marine is slaughtered. Now the other side attack. Meanwhile, the Queen's knocking down so much of this, a disjointed army. The Queen's getting torn asunder, but actually take out several of the Banshees and Medevacs on the way. And now, after winning a decisive fight, Reynor starts the Ultralisk Cavern. Going straight up to the largest possible option. I thought we would see it right off the bat, but it makes sense. Whoa. It makes sense to wait until you kind of force your opponent into a more manageable position to go for the Ultras. As in a full economy situation, the Ultralisk don't get the job done. But again, Cure more than willing to throw men into the meat grinder. And right now it's Reynor who seems to be somewhat lacking. He doesn't have the supply. The Marines, the Marauders, and the Medevacs, and even the Mines continue to trundle their way across the map, literally rallied out in waves like we're playing a MOBA right now. This is the direct strike Terran from Cure. And he's not very subtle about it. But you know what's even less subtle? My plea is for you to like and subscribe, as well as Ultralisks. 4 of them on the way. Chitin is plating to give them that untouchable armor for everything but the the Marauders, rather. I guess Ultras are pretty good against Ultras, too. The Widowmons do a little bit of Prairie Dog micro. Knocks out the Overseer, which is going to make things more difficult. Another drop on the left side. He's tearing him apart right now. The Ultra's about to pop out of the eggs in a biological fashion that I'm not exactly sure how it works, and I don't want to read too much into it. Another group of Marines and Marauders is taken down, but somehow Cure's supply goes up. 191 to now 198 as a few more Ultras enter production. There is no Ghost Academy. There's a single star port. No siege tanks. The Ultralisk. The elephant in the room right now. Especially since your mother wasn't invited. And the Marines and Marauders are good, especially off of creep. But Cure, he's now on a timer. Unless he can whittle down the economy and eventually take out the Ultras, or switch into the tech he needs to deal with them directly, well, down goes one hatchery. Meanwhile, Cure has a solid fourth base. The parasitic bombs! Cure looking for an antidote, but a quarantine is all he can find. Reynor pushed back to 4 bases, but he has the Ultras on the field. The biomass now is a lot to contend with. The minefield behind it. Ooh, gonna do quite a number on the Ultras to start things off. A brutal game thus far, and it's only going to get more so. More Marines going to be eviscerated. 3-3 upgrades for either side, but Cure has an edge. Meanwhile, another drop to the left. He keeps going left and right, and there's nothing to reliably deal with the medevacs. A fusion core is back at home, and it looks like Cure's going to go with the ghostless style of Terran, at least for now. Maintain that mobility on the field by relying on either Liberators or just the bio units, as opposed to the much more expensive, yet potentially more effective Ghosts. And so far, it's working out for him. He's maintained the momentum across the field. The murderous army of Marauders and Marines meticulously microing all the way back. And another Ultra goes down. Misses the corrosive piles. A second Ultra almost pin-cushioned by the massive armor-piercing rounds of the Liberators. The chitinous plating is no match as he targets him down. More Ravagers on the way. And right now, Reynor is on the ropes, but the Italian Stallion doesn't give up that easily. Cure again. Over to the right flank. And by again, I mean he's just been sitting here. He's been here the whole time. The Marines and Marauders trying to target. Parasitic bomb splits. Oh, wow. Beautiful. I can't believe it's not butter. And Cure seemed like he had the numbers and might still, as he kites back, takes out 3-4 Ultras. Killed to a man. But again, Cure loses a similar amount of resources and actually gets a 5th base. Reynor destroyed more over the last minute. But Cure's economy is almost dead even. And a Liberator finds a nasty location. The back quarter knocks down a medevac with all hands. Reynor needs another base soon. The main base is mining out. The natural's drying up. He's almost killing his hive with Vipers. The Spore Crawler repositions. 6 more drones dead. Reynor plummets to a 4-drone lead, but Caduceus Reactor is on the way. Is Advanced Ballistics queued up behind? Indeed it is. Interesting and not that surprising that Cure prioritizes the Medevac Energy Regen upgrade over Liberator range, because there is no direct anti-air right now. There's potentially Parasitic Bomb and Abduct. There's Corrosive Bile, but there are no Corruptors. So there's no easy way to deal with the Liberators directly. So, Liberator range not as much of a priority as making sure that bio army stays together. But finally, some infestors out of Reynor. He knows this army is so slippery. He greased him up beforehand, so he's just going to need to hold him down to knock him out. Melee attacks level 3 is completed. Caduceus Reactor joining it. Spire is halfway done. And, well, that infestor sign, you could actually see... It's so obvious on a map like this. It is really map dependent, which is quite something. But you gotta look for the worm sign. Alright, that way your harvesters won't be in nearly as much danger. But the infestor is spotted. A double scan. There's another one hiding in the trees. The double cloak there, burrowed underneath. And Cure is committing all of his forces to this position. That infestor is waiting for its moment, and its moment is coming soon. But the pre-spread, he never offers that much of a target. It's so hard to really get a cost-effective fight here for Reynor. Or an effective fight at all, to be honest. Throws out a fungal, goes for the center mass. The Ultra's starting to melt away, but the bio army doing so as well. Parasitic Bomb doing terrible, terrible damage, but the Zerg army is gone. The Medivacs have been whittled down, the Liberators, many of them knocked out, but not enough to stop these Marauders from marching forward. It's still 132 to 172 supply, though, as Reynor has done some damage on the other side. 48 SCVs, a huge set of Zergling counterattacks. We're able to cut down on Kira's economy enough to carve the side of the Mule Mountain out back into a valley. But another set of mules will be released from the stable and will stabilize the economy yet again. Well, bit of a game so far. Wow. In 17 minutes, we've got 51,000 resources lost, 300 Zerglings, 150 Marines. There really haven't been that many Banelings. Yeah, 48 dead. Those are just the ones that died before attacking, but a few more on the way now, as Reynor's been maxed out for a little while. But Cure getting a little closer as well. Blinding Cloud knocking most of the army back, actually drawing them into the Ultras. Parasitic Bomb, Corruptors, Wombo combo to knock everything out of the sky, and there's absolutely no match for the Ultras on the field. The command center will be forced to pick up and run away. The Ultras in an awkward position off of creep. He doesn't have any infestors to hold him down. Marauders with Stim are about the same speed or even a little bit quicker. And a couple more Ultras will get popped on the way out. He needs the Zerglings to help cover, and a Baneling Mine was attempted. We've seen Reynor to incredibly great effect use a Baneling Mine or Baneling Mines against Cure before. But this time around, he's not going to fall for it. And Cure begrudgingly kicking, and possibly screaming, a Ghost Academy. Halfway done. As both sides, the economy's much more tenuous. The first 3 bases are pretty much mined out. The third base, at least, is drying up now. The other 2 are almost entirely gone. That means the total economies have dropped from the peak they once hit. Usually for Zerg, that means about 3k minerals per minute. For Terran, that can be up to 3,500 with mules. But without those first mining bases, it's almost impossible to get to that level of economy yet again, without one player being incredibly far ahead. Like, you can get there, but both players being there means they have some sort of non-aggression pact. As the bases get closer together, things get more strung out, the armies get more dangerous. It becomes more and more difficult to hold on to your outlying bases. But Kira gonna challenge that notion. He's got quite a setup back at home. Whoa! That's my commentary. That's, yep, that Widowmine doesn't kill, scampers away. But wait, there's more. Thankfully he didn't target it. The first ghosts come out, and will get smoothly saved. Actually, a couple will die to Zerglings, which is... And then he lets the Zerglings in because he's got bigger fish to fry here. The Ultras gonna be targeted down. The Banelings get full connections, but the Marauders just take it. And the Ultras trundling their way down. The awkward pickup. More Zerglings coming in. Cure pushed back. Blinding Cloud throws out a couple of the ghosts. Those were actually the ones from earlier. EMP, I don't think hits anything there. The SCVs! But the Ultras will cleave through the planetary just in time. 17 more SCVs dead. As Reynor starting to overwhelm Cure across the board. He has the army, he has the decision-making, but he doesn't have the speed. Reynor slipping by with Zerglings at almost every angle. He's still got a couple burrowed at the natural. He knocks out the base at the front, all time to maximize the potential damage with units that are usually of minimal concern. The Ultras trying to line up some shots, but Ultras, Lings, and Banes, the numbers, they don't lie. They potentially spell disaster for Cure, but the Ghosts lining up their shots. The Fungal only interrupts a few of them. A great angle. Cure doesn't even really micro back, and now he's stimming forward. Meanwhile, though, never a single attack from Reynor. He knows that he might not be able to win the battle, but he can definitely win the war. The Ghosts are able to turn the tides against the Ultras. But the Zerglings took out another base, and Kier's down to 39 workers. Now, Reynor has 70 drones, but he's struggling to find places to reliably mine from. He has the bases on the eastern side of the map as the 6 o'clock gets taken out, and thankfully for Reynor, he's able to escort his drones away. Only a single medevac to heal any of these units will be taken out. Parasitic Bomb and Corruptors. The Bioarmy moving by. There's an Infestor with full energy around here. He could potentially pick up. Misses the opportunity, but still going forward. Reburrows. And I'm not sure if Kier noticed it. Does he see the worm sign? Yes! He sees it. He knocks it out. A huge pick-off there that may buy him a few more seconds. Meanwhile, the Zerglings and the Natural cleared up a few more SCVs. Burrowed for several minutes and finally find their moment. Like you're playing the campaign and things are just going horribly wrong. But unfortunately for Kier, there's no saves coming here. He's just going to have to work with what he has. And what he has are about 10 mules dropping. A surprisingly close income, but not enough army supply. The switch to Ghosts came at almost exactly the time his economy was drying up and Reynor was hitting the rest. Which means he's been left with not nearly enough weight to throw around. Some of the drones try to transfer up. He might be able to take out the base, but it could come at the cost of this position. The Marauders, so close. A few more volleys, but there are 8 Ultras on the field. Reynor doesn't have so much money he can just remax out infinitely. Kier doesn't know exactly the situation. Oh, he snipes off the hatch. He picks up. He's going to get out. The Widow Mines thinning things out. He actually doesn't have an Overseer here. He may just manually detonate to deal with the Widow Mine. A single Zergling. Enough. Wait, did he lose this orbital? I don't know how many orbital. He hasn't lost an orbital. He floated away. All right. And the Widow Mines are recharging. Reynor's still trying to rebuild long-distance mining with like half of his economy. And meanwhile, Kier actually has the income advantage as the Cliff of Mules, again, is patching together the economy. The stimulus package he needed drops another volley. Another herd. He has 6 orbital commands. And if he expends too much energy on mules, then obviously scans become harder to come by. But Reynor has mined out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases so far. And he's been struggling to hold on to any more. Which means this army is pretty close to his last, unless there's some sort of surprisingly even fight. There are 4 infestors. He's adding 1 more. He does have plenty of gas. Not nearly as many minerals. 28 Zerglings will drain the rest of the bank. The mules are mining, but Reynor just picked up 2 more bases in the bottom left corner. He's got burrowed infestors scattered throughout. His teammate Cyril pioneering this strategy, and Reynor, I think, more begrudgingly making use of it. Another army. A remnant of the past, this sort of strategy. But that infestor pops up and it holds him down. He gets the fester, but the entire ground army will be knocked out. Besides the ones he picks up and gets away with, but you know. The infestor is directly underneath the army. Clearly didn't see the worm sign there. Reynor wasn't even alive when Dune 2000 came out, so he clearly doesn't have the native, Back when Reynor was born, they already had flat screen monitors, alright? I mean, not everyone had them. Not all of us were so privileged, but... Well, the infestor at the very back. Now's the time. He throws it out. He gets a fungal. Wombo combo with a parasitic bomb. The Ultra's coming down. The Baneling's rolling through a little bit mistimed, but will force the Ghosts away at the last. Half the Ultras split off to just cleave through yet another planetary fortress. The Ghosts finding their way into the alleyways. The Banelings with their extra damage against light knocks out another Ultra. 5 remain. And throughout all of this, Reynor's economy has been untouched. The Ghosts get another. So Reynor now has the income, I say. Really hoping that graph when I bring it up is going to reflect that, but surprisingly not. But now, the Ultra's just cleaving through. GG! Doesn't matter how many mules you have if you don't have the army to protect them. Reynor takes game number 1. 110,000 resources lost, 760 Zerglings, 25 Ultras, 200 Marines, 30 medevacs. A brutal meat grinder of a game. But it does feel like Reynor was able to hold on to it, especially once Cure tried to switch into Ghost and he slipped in the process. Once Cure had enough economy to get aggressive while defending, that sort of multitasking Cure clearly struggling to keep up with. So, a masterclass in late game Zerg, while Cure looking very strong in the mid game, just unable to capitalize quite enough, giving Reynor the 1-0 lead, going into 10,000 feet. Where are you going? Just one? No. Okay. 2 racks! There must always be 2. A first and then a second if you're efficient with it, because you're not going to have the minerals for a second barracks right off the bat. Well, through all the fire and the fury of that last game, this one going to be a bit more dramatic to start. Oh, wait, there's 1, 2, and a third SCV was sent. Is he going to stagger all 3 of them? Well, part of the reasoning for this is to hide information, obviously. Actually, that's most of the reasoning. Because if Reynor scouts either the 1 racks or the 2, that gives him an incomplete picture of the level of commitment that Cure is bringing to this relationship. Whereas Reynor might try to hedge his bets. Cure is all in. Will he pull the boys? He's going to build a second. Can you wall off? Well, you can wall off anything with bunkers if you're brave enough, but... away we go. He's trying to decide where to put the bunker. Didn't quite have the minerals. He wants to maximize it. Going to spot the main base. Roach Run starts immediately. Just 1 bunker so far. Wow. Resets it to try to control the ramp. That might be a bit greedy. He has to finish the bunker. So, and he just reset it to the point, like, it's already in the creep here. The drones, the lings are pulled. A few more seconds! Those are the most important seconds. Wait, the Marines are on the wrong side of history right now. The bunker will finish, but there's no one to get inside. Well, he's got a couple SCVs to work with. Good stutter step so far. The Zergling's getting a little distracted. He has to be careful not to get them caught on the bunker, which is not really a threat right now. There's no one inside it. It's a decoy bunker. The Marines microing back a couple more Marines. Great mineral walk from Reynor. And the drone strike is enough. Reynor down to 12 drones, which is not ideal, but he maintains the hatch. And he doesn't really slow his mining much. Now, the awkward part here is that Cure's just going to keep building Marines. And he sends the rest of the boys. And the over... okay, all right. Yes, we saw it. He saw the rest of the SCVs on their way across the map, which means Reynor's just going to be building roaches. The fact that roaches are out is going to make this a lot more difficult. The main weakness of roaches is not apparent here. There's no medevacs. All he needs to do is live, and roaches are very helpful for doing that. The drones are pulled for the second time. He does not want to lose too many more, but he's trying to draw a little bit of extra fire. And Cure targeting the roaches, but 14.CV's dead. The Marine's gonna be whittled down one by one. The roaches, less dramatically and less quickly. And, well, target's down another drone. The Marines just casually strolling by, but GG! I said. Somehow, but Reynor just holds Cure. Pulls the cord and just goes for it. Now, he couldn't have known exactly how many drones he killed, but I think there was a real chance to just go back and macro it out. He already had more workers, though Reynor did have a second hatchery. But that certainly makes a more decisive conclusion when you just pull the boys across the map and pray. Well, here we go. Game 3, just like that. Almost the antithesis of game number 1. Game 2, almost a footnote or an end credit scene, but 2-0 for the Italian Stallion, while the People's Terran languishing. 0 so far. That felt spiteful. That felt like, just, I'll throw this out there and reset things. Alright, moving on. That was like a 3/4 ass all in there. He built the bunker, he canceled the bunker, he restarted the bunker, and Reynor, with the presence of mind, whether it was a happy little accident or intentional, with the presence of mind to just let him have the bunker and isolate the Marines. If he had focused more on the bunker, the Marines would have had more time to target down drones, and he would have maybe... like 2 or 3 more drones, that's critical levels. You do not recover from that economically without a minor miracle. 12 drones with 2 bases? Okay. 7 or 8? That's like a mule and a half. A mule's worth right around 5 SCVs mining for its duration. Give or take, but that's the closest approximation. So what that means is if he has 7 or 8 drones, all Cure needs is 4 SCVs and a mule at home, and he has more money. Which means he can still build Marines. Quite a series so far, but Reynor on defense most of the time and strong for it. I need Cure to have more confidence in himself. I don't know how much he's playing the best of 7. Cure has played a lot of Cure is the most underrated player consistently throughout StarCraft, like modern StarCraft 2 history. Cure is currently rated higher than Beyond. He's the 3rd ranked Terran in the world, behind Clem and Maru. And pretty reliably ahead of Beyond. Cure has not played as many of the weekly tournaments and such lately, but he was defeated by Reynor in the World Finals just a couple years ago. Like 3 years ago. He's won GS, like, Cure, it's just he has such a relatable style. That's why he's the People's Terran. Alright, his micro is not perfect, though right now it's looking real good. I thought I cursed him. But he'll get frustrated, he'll do these cheeses. He'll have the solid, well, I guess I have to go Ghosts. But almost defeating Reynor with just sheer macro in game 1. You don't have to micro incredibly well if you've already set up your army in the right spot. Sun Tzu, like Sun Tzu said, talk softly and burrow a big widow mine. In his The Art of Terran versus Zerg. Meanwhile, come back here. Come back here. Marie, what are you doing? Come back here, young man. Let him eat creep. Are you okay, Marie? Is that rhetorical? I'm gonna go with yes. No. Sorry, Blacked out for a moment. Third command center, Banshee on the way. Hellions at the front. You know the drill. Banshee speed, though. Here to mix things up just a bit. Banshee speed now research is 20 seconds faster than the previous patch. I think it's a bit faster than Cloak, though it does cost 25 more. The thought process, Banshee speed. Now, a lot of the time, Cloak is good, but most of the time you're fighting around Spore Crawlers or Overseers, whereas Banshee speed means they can't catch you at all, which is even better than Cloak on paper. So far in practice, it feels like Cloak is still better. There's still a lot of opportunities without detection that aren't necessarily as easy to take advantage of just because your Banshees are extra zoomy. But the Hyper Shees, well, definitely mixing it up here. And he's gonna go Mech. At least he's starting us off with a bit of a McDonald's appetizer. And 2 more factories on the way. All right, this isn't the Maru Mech where you take a taste like a more bio-curious strategy, but instead, a full mech commitment. You don't go 2 factories. This isn't Brood War. 2 armories, 2 factories. A full commitment to the mechanized Terran army. Well. Spire is on the way. It's gonna be Hell Clones, right? Blue Flame in production. A Spire could be an incredible counter, especially against a minimal number of Cyclones. The Mutas can reach a critical mass. Now, if you don't have Thors, if you don't have Widowmons, or Marines, usually. Marines are the big one. Well, actually very small, but you know what I mean. If you don't have that, then you don't really have any built-in anti-air at all. Like, you don't have a way to deal with the mass Mutas. This is just a lot of Hellions. He's got 14 Hellions burninating across the countryside right now. Not a single... He doesn't even have an engine... Oh, he does have an engineering base. All right. Hellbats! On the way. Banelings in production. Now, this is some real potential damage. The Banshees find an opportunity, though the Queen will take one of the Banshees with her. Zergling counter. Some of the drones going to be taken down. Pulls away 13 drones, 14, 15 incinerated. The base itself, the Banelings crashing through, and that might be enough for the Queens to clean up the rest. Reynor has enough for 8 Mutas at the moment. He's going to find an opportunity to maybe kill a few SCVs at the third base. The Hellions back in Hellion mode. For some reason, they were Hellbats back at home. Speaking of... Too hot right now. 9 Mutas. A couple Cyclones in production at a time. But, The Banshee flies right in. The Banshee flies right into the unit's lost tab. And that's usually what we've seen from Banshee speed, is even Terran players not able to handle it. Because it's just so fast. It has a tendency, and the acceleration's kind of crazy as well. It has a tendency to slide right into its death. The Cyclone's going to be taken out. The Muta's cleaning up the Hellions on the left side. The Zergling's cleaning up the Cyclones on the right. And here I am, stuck in the middle with you. I'm begging you to like and subscribe. And now the Muta's flocking their way across the map. Will he add any more? +1 flyer attack has begun. SCV taken out. The one building the 4th. Reynor at 83 drones and counting. So, the problem with Mech is the infrastructure cost and the fragility of the army. Cure has spent so much in just building up these factories. He's getting a laundry list of upgrades. Magfield Accelerator, Drilling Claws. Smart Servos with a quick transform. He spent 100 gas on each of the factories, 50 on each of the armories, and that leaves him with very little actual standing army. If he gets to 200 supply, gets all these upgrades, he's going to be incredibly hard to deal with. But Reynor is very aware of that. He's building the mass mutas. The Baneling! We've got to see it. The Banelings were queued up. Looks like Cure actually had some Widow Mines, but they may have contributed to the disaster. The mutas are flocking in. We'll get driven back. But this is Reynor distracting. Look at the mini-map. Look at the cameras. Cure. Reynor's watching. Cure, on the other hand, not so much. The mutas successfully distracting Cure as 14 more SCVs are taken out. Another set badly bruised. But the bait and switch was exactly what Reynor was looking for, as he opens up an opportunity to get straight to Hive. This is Reynor's game to lose. There are almost no... Well, there's about 2 minutes until Cure is able to max out. The thing is, this army, unlike your sort of siege tank, Thor sort of army, this is not an army that can really stand and fight. This is an army that wants to be on the field, kind of dueling. Because Cyclones and Hellions are not designed, they're not homebodies. But they're forced to be, because if they go outside, they'll be torn apart. They have a better chance if they try to stand their ground at home. The Mutas, Widowmons taking big bites. The Lings and Banes will take even more. The Hellions, the Widowmons are in great position. Gonna knock out some of the Lings and Banes. But the rest will drive it back for long enough. It looks like the Mutas will just take out the command center. And again, Reynor finds an objective and accomplishes it. Anti-armor missile kind of spitefully out of the Raven. By the way, built a Raven. 17 Cyclones. Is there a burrow? There is not. So Reynor has 90 drones. Like, the anti-armor missile doesn't actually do anything because the Cyclone lock-on is spell damage. The Zerglings drawing the Widowmine hits in, and the Hellions are not well suited to helping defuse that. Cure, the architect of his own demise here. I feel like Cure doing almost as much damage to himself. And yeah, Cure killed 2 Cyclones and a Hellion. Not as bad as I thought, but still pretty rough. Drags in another set of mines. Reynor doing a great job minimizing the damage, at least to the Mutas. Right up until this moment, at least. He swings back around. And so far, gonna eat a lot of hits with the Banes, but the Muta count stayed high. And Cure driven back down to 120 supply. The end is looking very close to nigh. As Cure can only sigh. The Mutas continue to fly, and the Zerglings continue to fry. But this game is far from ending in a tie. I don't think I have to explain why. Gold base is mining. You can see, well, one, the Mule Canyons, as Reynor gaining a greater lead as he adds another base with each attack. Where Cure desperately trying to hold on to what he once had. Single Hellion at the Watchtower actually giving a ton of information here. But at the end of the day, will it even matter? The Lings and Banes come crashing through yet again. The planetary fortress easily targeted. The banelings used as an explosive shield, but unfortunately the Widowmine is even better at it. Zerglings in the third, Zerglings in the fourth. Cure actually still has 100 army supply and 60 SCVs. A surprising amount, but it's not the sort of army that... Well, let's watch him die. The Mutas, the Widowmines, another wave of Banes, in a miracle set of Widowmine hits, but he's sacrificing the Mutas now. The first wave is driven back. The second wave drives Kier out. GG, 3-0. Reynor with a decisive victory, dismantling the mech composition with great prejudice. Kind of a beautiful, somewhat painful yet masterclass in how to do that. Kier has beaten him with that composition before. I think Reynor has evolved, adapted. Some might even say overcame. Kier on the cusp of losing another devastating series to yet another Basilisk Zerg, of which there are two. You can figure out the other. As Reynor dismantling him, each game looking more decisive than the last, somehow even more than the 3 racks proxy, in my opinion. But we're going to Mothership, a 3-player map, just to make things a little more complicated. Honestly, I'm not sure. I really like the 3-player maps. I think they add a lot as a spectator, and are now officially in the map pool. This map, at least. So, despite being one of the last maps the pro players voted for of the 16 in the Team Liquid map contest, both tournament organizers and viewers who are not tournament organizers or pro players in the top 40 were able to vote. You voted, right? This was first and second. Which, you know, let's try to put it as well. What am I looking at? Sort of holographic star system thing. I mean, we are on a mothership, I guess. This is a real scale mothership. The actual mothership's so large we could have an entire game on it with some room to spare. So clearly modeled after your mother. Now, 3-player maps, not just because of the rotational dynamics, but any map with more than 2 players simply has more bases, like more area to expand. Like on Taito Citadel, I believe 7 bases per side with 1 contested. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like each quadrant has 7 bases, which means there could easily be 10 bases per side. Could contribute to, and already has contributed to, some of our longest games in recent history. 30 plus minutes. I'm not saying every game. There's just as much early cheese or catching someone off guard because they don't quite have as much information from a certain angle, which is not surprising either. The SCV trying to come in, and Reynor does not have enough minerals. Uh-huh. No. Alright. Good talk. Reaper trying to get some pickups, not finding it. SCV still. Now, Reynor just gonna take the other third base, it looks like. Queen gonna come down. Hello? This... You can't be here. Rude. Brenda, come back. We took the other base. You're just gonna let them win? It's not winning, it's delaying gratification. I don't judge you, Susan. You can't judge me. No, that's not what I'm talking... Just come back. Get back to creep, Brenda. Not because you told me to. Sorry, I blacked out for a moment. The Reaper, no kills, but gets all the information. Third command center's out the way for Cure. So far, those are my thoughts. Roach Ward on the way a little bit early. A suspicious barracks float. Trying to maybe deny a pervert pillar up here. Make sure the Overlord can't see all the shenanigans happening. And he is starting with a Viking, which is suspicious in and of itself. Who are you hiding from? No Banshee this time. Then again, he's gone Banshee 3 games in a row. And I can see the score too, so... Trying something a little bit different here. Correctly predicting that Reynor will not go for some sort of crazy aggression. But instead, just building up, and I'm sure he's happy to sit back. Though somehow dodged every single... Like, the Viking didn't find a single Overlord. Which... feels a bit unlucky, to say the very least. Though might have been intentional from Reynor, literally sending the Overlords out now. Roach is on the way. Not enough to be an all-in threat, but instead, just to zone out the Hellions. And speaking of, the Zerglings get the wrap-around corner the Hellions and rip them apart. Kier dropping the ball. And Reynor... well, tearing it to shreds, I say. Liberator in the main. The Queen. Try to dodge out of the way. Prancing. And so far... I mean... it's going to be a full macro situation. A bunker in production. Cure. You know, the roaches may have served their purpose. He zoned them out with the roaches and... Cure may think it's a big roach ling all-in or something along those lines. And when you don't have banshees to help defend, it definitely increases the likelihood. But instead, Reynor is just going for what looks to be an incredibly quick hive yet again. Baneling Nest is on the way. +1 melee attacking Carapace at about the same timing as Cure's infantry weapons and armor. Usually the Terran upgrades have a bit of an advantage because of the startup cost, and usually you're ending up building engineering base quicker anyways, but Liberator finds a pretty nasty angle jammed in against the air blocker, the force field at the edge of the mothership here. Spore Crawler, not nearly as nimble. Queen's only arguably more so. Raiden's been working on some of these rocks to open up more paths to defend his bases, whereas the Terrans, I think the opposite usually is true. Some chew toys out there with the depots. But the hive is already on the way. Like... 7-minute hive. I think this one's going to be... oh, it's almost exactly the same time as game number 1. Double drop headed out for Cure. The Viking trying to get off this map, which, you know, might be a good idea if it goes the way it's been going. The Ultralisk cavern begins immediately. Just a straight up, no holds barred Ultralisk rush. And so far, Cure has done very little to slow down the Zerg. He's given Reynor not 4, but 5 bases now. Gonna try to drop the main. This just feels, it feels like I don't like to try to undercut the skill and the level of these players, but I can't help but think that Cure is not firing on all cylinders right now. We saw what he could do with game 1. We could put it all together. But this is an almost obligatory effort to slow down the Zerg. There's literally 50 creep tumors on the field. Reynor has half the map. Kier's at 8.5 minutes and isn't very close to putting together a real push to move out. Chitinous plating is already on the way. Reynor has taken every advantage, wrested it from Kier's half-hearted attempts to keep him at bay. And now we'll capitalize, I'm sure. Kier's filling in all the gaps. He's going to be maxed out. 2-2, halfway done for both sides. 4th base. And there's still always an opportunity with a maxed out Terran army. With good upgrades and a good position. We saw already this series how strong that can potentially be. But huge counterattack. The Viking will spot it. And Reynor setting up in a way that could easily just bring this all the way around. Planetary Fortress is done here, but he's actually just going for the full flank. Kier stimming forward. The Banelings from one side, the Zerglings from the other. And the Terran sandwich. Now with a acidic, saucy middle. And that was an absolute unmitigated disaster. That was more one-sided than a Mobius strip. That was just cyberbullying. That... He lost 39 Zerglings and whatever amount of Banelings went down in that exchange, but... Cure, another base gonna be cleaned up. The Ultras. There's Blinding Cloud for the Planetary. The army itself. This has just been a macro trainer out of Reynor. And no one's better at it, like... The Marines and Marauders driving it back for now, but Reynor, his income to the moon, or wherever this mothership is. 59 SCVs versus 81 drones. Another wave. This one with less units and a worse position. The Zerglings undercutting the economy. The Ultras trundling forward. Widowmon's taken out by the corrosive bile. Reynor. 1, 2, 3. Brings it all together and takes 4 in a row. Reynor with a clean and decisive sweep. Wow. Just eviscerating Cure. Each game more painful and crushing than the last. Only the first one did it look like Cure really even had any chance of bringing it back. Reynor showing what Zerg is capable of in quite an impressive display. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. Thank you to the Kung Fu Cup for their monthly finals, putting on a bit of a higher scale tournament on a regular basis. Really appreciate it. Just like I appreciate you. And especially if you have the means and motivation to check out Patreon or YouTube membership, but here liking and subscribing and hyping is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. Thank you to our mule tier patrons bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Mario Suit. Glad you still enjoy. And make sure to check out this video, which Jimmy picked out just for you. And I'll see you next time, hopefully. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.
Hell, it's about